Night spills across the city like ink over glass. Inside the tower, time stands still, its corridors glimmering with sterile light, and the hush of machines asleep. Every surface gleams with the memory of touch. Every reflection carries the ghost of motion. Somewhere within that silence, a figure moves with the patience of someone unseen. Each stroke of her cloth, each turn of the mop is an act of quiet devotion, though no one will ever know. The air hums faintly. The whisper of air vents, the murmur of fluorescent stars above. In this empire of chrome and calculation, her presence feels like breath itself. Small, necessary, and almost forgotten. But tonight, something waits behind the ordinary rhythm, a current beneath the calm. As she reaches for the last desk, her hand pauses, not from fatigue, but from a tremor deep within the air, as though the building itself is remembering something it lost long ago. The office sleeps, but memory does not. The billionaire's world hums faintly with the remnants of his day. A coffee cup half full, a pen uncapped, a note left unfinished. To her, these are fragments of another's existence, small relics of someone who will never notice her touch. Yet tonight, her eyes linger longer than usual on the desk, on a drawer slightly ajar. Within the faint outline of paper, something aged peeks through. A strange warmth rises within her chest, not curiosity, but recognition. So faint it could be mistaken for breath. She hesitates, her reflection staring back from the desk's surface. 2 lives, 2 shadows, almost touching. Then she closes the drawer gently, as though sealing a memory not yet ready to wake. Far above her, in the penthouse suite of the same building, another light burns. The only one left awake in the tower. The man who built it sits alone, scrolling through reports he won't remember reading. His world, though vast, feels smaller with every deal signed. Outside, the wind beats softly against glass, carrying echoes of a different time. Laughter, summer, the scent of paint on his hands. He doesn't know why he's restless tonight, only that something unnamed stirs behind his ribs, like the first sound of thunder before a storm that has been waiting years to break. Down below, the building hums again. Elevators glide. The clock near the lobby whispers toward midnight. She wheels her cart into the hallway, her footsteps merging with the rhythmic pulse of the city outside. Somewhere between the mechanical heartbeat of the building and the hush of her movements, time folds. Perhaps it's the faintest echo of a name, a sound she once knew. Perhaps it's the air, carrying a memory like dust suspended in light. Whatever it is, she feels it. The pull of something about to return. As she leaves, the building exhales. Behind her, the office remains, untouched, unknowing. But in that silent room, a single photograph shifts again in the draft, sliding from its hiding place to the floor. The frame cracks softly upon impact. Morning will find it there waiting. The past unveiled by accident, the future trembling beneath glass. And somewhere in the distance, 2 lives, divided by years, class, and memory, begin, unknowingly, to turn toward each other once more. Morning comes slow, seeping through the glass walls like reluctant forgiveness. The city awakens with its usual roar. Horns, footsteps, elevators rising like mechanical prayers. In his office, the billionaire stands over a fallen frame. The sound of glass crunching beneath his shoe halts him. The photograph lies face up, and time, so long contained, unspools in an instant. The air thickens. He bends down, fingers trembling, and the years collapse into silence. That face, the one he thought memory had long abandoned, looks back at him with sunlight in her eyes. A ghost made of paper, ink, and impossible familiarity. His pulse stumbles. For the first time in decades, he cannot command his own stillness. He lifts the photograph gently, tracing the curve of the woman's smile. The edges of the picture are frayed, faint fingerprints pressed into its corners, perhaps his, perhaps hers. The handwriting on the back is small, slanted, painfully familiar. To Alex. Before the world changed, the words detonate softly in his mind. He sits heavily in his chair, the city suddenly far away. For a long time, he stares at the name, the face, the light caught in those eyes. And then something impossible crosses his mind, not the thought that she is gone, but the unbearable possibility that she never truly left. Elsewhere, she scrubs the marble floors of the lower lobby, unaware that her past has just been resurrected. The world above her hums with motion, while her own remains trapped in rhythm. Rinse, wipe, breathe. Yet something about this morning feels heavier, as though unseen eyes are following her. Perhaps it's the whisper of her own intuition. Or perhaps the city itself is holding its breath. For the first time in years, she looks up toward the top floor, toward the name etched in silver across the building, and wonders, faintly, what it might be like to be seen again. Back in the penthouse, he stares at the photograph until the lines blur into light. His assistant knocks softly, stepping inside, sensing something unspoken in his silence. He hides the photo instinctively, as though caught holding a secret. She asks if he's all right. He answers with a nod too quick, a smile too thin. The assistant leaves, puzzled, and the door closes on his unease. Alone again, he sets the photograph beside his monitor. The image catches in the screen's reflection, her face hovering beside his, past and present staring back as one. When the day ends, he lingers long after everyone has gone. The city outside burns with evening light, but his world is consumed by memory. He opens his laptop, searches archives, names, art galleries, long forgotten. The woman in the photo once painted sunlight, he remembers now, but her art vanished, like her name. As he scrolls through old records, one article stops him cold. A photograph from decades ago signed in delicate ink, Evelyn Marlowe. The name strikes him like a bell, and for a moment, the empire he built feels weightless, insignificant, unreal. The past has found its way back, and its face is one he cannot forget. The next evening, he arrives earlier than usual. The office feels different now, alive with echoes only he can hear. He tells himself it's coincidence, curiosity, nothing more. But when the night shift begins, he remains in his office, lights dimmed, waiting. The distant hum of a cleaning cart drifts through the corridor, and something in that sound reaches him. He steps into the hallway, pausing at the corner where glass meets shadow. There she is, silent, steady, unaware. The sight of her bends, time itself. Every movement familiar yet impossibly changed. He watches her the way one watches a memory, afraid to breathe, afraid it might vanish. She senses it, a weight in the air, the feeling of being seen. Her hands pause mid-motion. The air hums faintly, that subtle vibration of attention. But when she glances over her shoulder, there's nothing there, only glass and shadow. Still, her heartbeat betrays her calm. It's a rhythm she's known before, once long ago, beneath sunlight and laughter. She shakes it away, resumes her work, though her breath falters with each quiet echo in the corridor. The past, it seems, is not finished with her yet. Later that night, he retreats to his office, shaken by the sight of her. The mind reasons what the heart refuses. It could be coincidence, a resemblance, a ghost conjured by guilt. But reason feels small against the ache of recognition. He pours a drink, staring at his reflection in the glass. The city burns below, indifferent. But his pulse carries a strange electricity. He knows he must be sure. He will find her name on the staff list tomorrow. He will confirm what his heart already knows. And yet, part of him dreads the answer. The following morning, he studies her file in silence. One among hundreds, unremarkable on paper. Evelyn Marlowe, Maintenance Division. Employed 12 years. The words feel too small to contain her story. He runs a thumb along the edges of the paper, his breath shallow. 12 years. All this time she's been within his walls, invisible in plain sight. A surge of remorse rises, sharp and unexpected. The world he built never allowed room for ghosts. Yet here she stands, sweeping through its hallways, carrying the fragments he forgot how to hold. That night he watches her again, not from the shadows this time, but from within the light. When she enters to clean his office, he remains seated, pretending to work. Her steps falter when she sees him still there, but she nods politely, continuing her duties with quiet dignity. He studies her hands. The same grace that once painted color into his world now moves through dust and polish. She does not look at him, but the silence between them is charged with years unspoken. For a moment, their reflections meet in the glass. The air hums, heavy, electric, alive. The night hums with its usual rhythm, but inside the office, the air is different, fragile, almost sentient. He remains seated as she moves about quietly, her every motion deliberate, avoiding his gaze. For a while, neither speaks. Only the sound of the cloth against glass, the faint creak of her cart. Then, softly, he asks her name, though he already knows it. She hesitates, answers without looking up. The sound of it, Evelyn, strikes through him like a chord he's been waiting years to hear. The moment lingers, trembling, before dissolving into the stillness once more. He tries to keep his tone casual, asking small questions. How long she's worked here, what hours she prefers. The empty language of strangers. Yet beneath each word lies a pulse of recognition, too heavy to hide. She answers politely, her voice calm but cautious, as if speaking to authority while hiding something tender beneath. When she leaves the room, his composure breaks. He exhales sharply, running a hand through his hair. For the first time in years, he feels human, uncertain, exposed, alive. The next night, he waits again, rehearsing words he never thought he'd need. When she arrives, he mentions the photograph, not directly, but as a question about art. "Did you ever paint?" he asks, feigning curiosity. The pause that follows feels eternal. She stills, cloth mid-motion, eyes flickering toward him but not meeting his. "Once," she whispers. The word hangs between them like dust in sunlight, fragile, illuminated, impossible to ignore. Later, alone, she sits in her small apartment, the echo of his voice still alive in her chest. She hasn't spoken of painting in decades. The walls around her are lined with dusted canvases, unfinished skies, forgotten faces. She runs her hand over one, tracing the lines with trembling fingers. For the first time, she allows memory to breathe. The warmth of youth, the laughter, the promise. It all feels near enough to touch, yet cruelly untouchable. Somewhere across the city, she knows he's remembering too. Days pass and the silence between them grows less heavy. She no longer avoids his presence. He no longer pretends disinterest. One evening, as she polishes the glass near his desk, he says quietly, "You remind me of someone." Her hands stop. For a moment, she considers denying it, but the words that rise instead are softer. People change. He looks at her then, really looks, and the truth between them hangs suspended, unspoken but undeniable. Outside, thunder rolls far off. A promise of something breaking open. Chew. He cannot hold the silence any longer. The moment comes unplanned. An evening storm breaking against the tower's glass walls, lightning carving veins across the sky. She enters, as always, quietly and finds him standing near the window, the photograph in his hand. The sound of her name leaves his lips, not as a question, but as a confession. She freezes, her eyes drawn to the image she thought had been lost forever. The world contracts between them. All those years, all that distance, gone in a heartbeat. She whispers his name, a sound buried for decades. He steps closer, careful, reverent, as if approaching a ghost. Words tumble from him. Apologies, disbelief, questions that sound like prayers. Why she left, where she went, how he could have been so blind. She doesn't answer at first. Her eyes glisten, but her face holds still, as though afraid that movement might shatter the fragile truth between them. When she finally speaks, her voice is steady, tired. "You stopped looking," she says, and the room falls silent. She tells him then, not all at once, but in fragments. The accident, the debt, the loss of her art, the silence that followed. She speaks of how the world kept moving while she remained still, hidden in plain sight. He listens, his eyes never leaving her face. Each word strikes like penance, each pause a lifetime. When she finishes, there's nothing left to hide behind. His empire feels smaller now, fragile as glass under rain. For the first time, he kneels, not out of pity, but reverence. He tells her he searched, that he never forgot her face. Though the years blurred her name, she shakes her head softly, almost smiling. But it's the kind of smile that breaks something inside. "You built the world you wanted," she says quietly. "I just learned how to live in it." The rain eases outside, leaving the city wrapped in fog. Between them, the distance that once seemed endless now feels unbearably small. For a long while, neither speaks. The clock ticks, marking the years they lost, the moments they can never reclaim. But there's something new now. Not forgiveness, not yet, but understanding. He asks if she'll let him help her again, offer her what she once gave him, the chance to begin. She looks at him then truly, and something shifts behind her eyes. "I don't need saving," she says softly, "just remembering." The storm outside fades to silence. The night exhales. Days turn softer after that night. The building feels quieter, as if listening to something delicate being rebuilt. He still works long hours, but his thoughts drift elsewhere, to the sound of her voice, the weight of her silence, the grace with which she endures. She moves through her routines as always, but something has changed. When their paths cross now, she no longer lowers her gaze. There's a calm in her eyes. Not forgiveness, but peace, as though she's finally learned to walk beside her past rather than beneath it. He invites her to lunch, not as a gesture of apology, but of remembrance. She hesitates, then agrees. They sit in the quiet cafe across the street from his tower, surrounded by strangers who have no idea how much history sits between them. Conversation comes slowly, awkward at first. Then laughter, small but real, escapes them both. The kind that feels borrowed from another lifetime. For a brief moment, time folds, and the years dissolve. He finds her old paintings one evening, tucked away in the maintenance storage, stacked behind cleaning supplies and dust. He lifts them carefully, each one a fragment of her heart preserved beneath time. He brings them upstairs, placing them in the empty gallery hallway that leads to his office. When she arrives for her shift that night and sees them hanging under the warm lights, her breath catches. She doesn't speak. She only stands there, eyes wide, the years collapsing under the weight of color. She turns to him then, emotion breaking through her composure. "Why would you do this?" she asks, voice trembling between gratitude and disbelief. He answers simply, "Because the world deserves to see what he once forgot." Her eyes glisten, and for a moment, the distance between them disappears. What began as guilt has become something else entirely. Not redemption, but reverence. Weeks pass. She paints again. Not for fame, not for him, but for the silence within her that finally feels ready to speak. He visits sometimes, not to interfere but to witness. The canvas blooms beneath her hand. Light, sky, and motion, flowing freely once more. Their words are few now. They no longer need them. There's a kind of love in the air. Not the passion of youth, but the grace of recognition. Two lives, once lost to each other, now moving in rhythm again. Time has gentled the edges of their story. The tower no longer feels like a monument to solitude, but a quiet archive of two lives rediscovered. Her paintings now hang in its halls. The same walls she once cleaned in silence. He walks those corridors each morning, fingers brushing against the frames as though they could still hum with the rhythm of her hands. She still works there, though less now, by choice, not necessity. Between them there is no tension, only the unspoken understanding of those who have survived themselves. One afternoon he finds her painting in the atrium, a canvas the size of the wall itself. The image is of the city at dawn, its towers mirrored in water, its light rising. He stands in silence, watching her hand glide across the surface with purpose and calm. "It's strange," he says softly, "how something broken can become so beautiful." She looks back at him, brush poised in midair. "It always was," she replies. "We just had to see it again." He sponsors an exhibition for her, not as charity, but as gratitude. The night of the opening, the gallery glows with soft light and murmuring guests. She stands quietly near her paintings, not seeking praise, only presence. When he joins her, she turns, and their eyes meet. No words needed. Around them, people admire her work, unaware that the truest masterpiece in the room is the quiet reconciliation between two souls who learned how to forgive time itself. Later that night, after the guests have gone, they return to the empty gallery. The air still hums with the echoes of applause. They walk among her paintings in silence, the sound of their footsteps soft on marble. When they stop before the final piece, a self-portrait painted in luminous whites and blues, he asks, "Is this how you see yourself now?" She smiles faintly. "No," she says. "It's how I finally learned to see." In the weeks that follow, she paints by the sea, not for anyone, not even for him. He visits sometimes, bringing coffee, sometimes only silence. The waves move with the patience of years, the same patience that brought them here. They sit together on the shore, the past finally quiet. The sky fades into color, the light softens. There are no promises, no vows, just two lives, at peace in the simple act of existing side by side. The wind moves through her hair, his hand resting near hers, not needing to touch. The light remains.